my name is Caroline, and from the day I was born, Mom has thought of me as a nuisance. No matter how hard I try to please her, I just always end up doing the wrong thing. You see, I was always clumsy, and I'd been causing minor disasters around the house even since I was born. Like one time when I was 2 years old, I climbed onto the bookshelf to take down a book and somehow managed to bring the whole thing down. Mom and Dad were freaked. They fired my nanny then, and since Dad was always away, Mom had to quit her job to look after me full time. I think that's when she started hating me. She thought everything I ever did was wrong. On my 6th birthday, she said to her friends, "She's so annoying that she chose to come out in the middle of my pedicure. I had to go to the hospital with half my nails painted. Can you imagine? So annoying." I was so embarrassed that I tried to run out of the room, only to run smack into my cake. I sat in a pile of cake and felt so embarrassed, and Mom looked so annoyed that I did the stupidest thing on the planet. I ate a fistful of cake and said, "Yum, chocolate." Everyone just laughed harder, and someone said I was an idiot. Turns out, it was Mom. Later that night, I heard Mom on the phone with her friend, and she was crying like a baby. I just miss the good old days. I had a life. I felt so bad. I decided to surprise her with something awesome. I took a screwdriver and ran to the garage. I started to draw with it on the car. I made a whole scene with me and Mom in our house. She was gonna love it. I excitedly nudged her awake from her nap and led her to the garage. But I was so shocked when she went totally ballistic on me. "You're so dumb, Caroline! Your birthdays for the next 5 years are canceled!" And it doesn't get any better from here. You see, I grew up really insecure about my looks around Mom. She was beautiful herself, and her snarky comments always made me feel ugly. She'd say things like, "Your nose is just like your father's mother's," or "You really can't pull off that pink color," or "Do you really need to eat chocolate?" But one time, when I was in the 7th grade, she had some friends over, and I heard her say it loud and clear. "I just wish my daughter was beautiful like me." I ran off to my room and stared at myself in the mirror. The only thing I had in common with her was my long black hair. I decided I would never cut it, but Mom was right. I was ugly. I was so upset with my reflection that I threw a shoe at the mirror, and it broke. Mom heard the noise and came running to my room. "What'd you do now? Clean that up." The next few years went by like that. Dad was a constant no-show most of the time. He sent money and gifts to make up for it, though, and Mom insisted I needed to be a different person, while I had found a brilliant new hobby. You see, the day before my 16th birthday, I had found a gorgeous old set of sculpting tools in the attic. I didn't even bother asking Mom whose they were because I was afraid she might make me throw them out. Just then, Mom knocked on the door. She said she'd bought me a dress to wear on my birthday the next day, but to no one's surprise, it turned out to be the wrong size. I tried really hard to fit into it, but I just couldn't. "Why did you buy me such a small dress, Mom?" "To push you to eat fewer cookies and more veggies. The way you're eating, you're never gonna fit into anything nice." "But Mom, clothes are supposed to fit you. You aren't supposed to fit them. If you'd gotten me the right size, I would have looked just fine." "Just fine isn't the same as beautiful, Caroline. That's chubby girl talk." I was so angry with her and disappointed that I had nothing nice to wear, so I just canceled my birthday party and shut myself up in my room, blasting away loud music and doodling furiously in my art pad. A few hours later, I heard a knock at the door. Mom banged on the door saying Dad's gifts were here. After she left, I opened the door and pulled my gift inside. To my surprise, it was a fancy new set of sculpting tools and clay. He'd remembered. Over the next few weeks, I ended up turning my room into my studio. I started sculpting every day. I started to get obsessed. Cars, people, horses, everything. I even started doing it at school. One day, as I was rushing from class to the art room, I bumped into someone and all the miniature sculptures in my bag fell out and scattered everywhere.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. Just help me. I looked up and saw the school's basketball captain, Ron. I'd had a crush on him for a while, but he didn't even know I existed. And now he was helping me pick up my scattered miniatures. Suddenly, Ron looked at my work and let out a whistle.
Don't tell me you made these. They're brilliant.
I'm pretty sure I'm very capable of making something brilliant, Ron.
No, of course. I meant you're really good. My aunt's a sculptor, and I just know she'd love your work.
Then he invited me to his home after school. I could not believe my ears. Ron's aunt was crazy talented, and she did seem really impressed with my work. Before I knew it, we had become friends. Not just us, but Ron too. I started hanging out more and more often at his place and sculpting in his aunt's studio. Before I knew it, we had become great friends, and my crush was back. One day while I was at Ron's place, his aunt showed me a poster of the sculpting contest, and wow! The prize was a scholarship to study art at the university. Ron said,
"If anyone can win it, it's you."
The way he said it gave me butterflies, and I decided I'd give it my best. I came back home thrilled, and I told my mom about my project, but Mom was anything but impressed.
"A sculptor? I was hoping you'd become a doctor, a lawyer, or something that won't make you starve. Actually, on second thoughts, maybe that's not such a bad thing."
I tried to not let her get to me, but she made me so mad. I shut myself up for the weekend and sculpted with such passion that I dirtied the floor and sent clay water splattering onto the walls. I wouldn't even go down to eat with her. I just ordered pizzas and had the delivery boy hand them to me through my window. A few days later, as I was leaving for school, she barged in and was beyond furious. She completely ignored my beautiful pieces and only looked around at the mess with crazy eyes. "What are you, a cave woman?
You're not going anywhere till you clean this garbage dump."
"I'll clean it up, Mom. But why do you always see the ugly side of everything? Don't you have anything nice to say about my art? I couldn't care less about your stupid art." And with that, she walked away. I was so furious, I decided to do the only thing I knew would really get to her. I decided to cut all my long black hair and dye it. It was the only thing my mother and I had that was similar, and now I was different. When she saw me with bright blue short hair, she dropped the plate she was holding and simply said,
"Ah, completely ugly now."
I started spending as much time away from home, returning late and not answering my mom's calls. I spent most of my time at Ron's house working on my sculpture of Grace O'Malley, a fierce Irish pirate. She was such an iconic woman. One day when I returned home, I couldn't find my sculpture anywhere. So I asked Mom, and she casually said,
"Your room looked like a dump, so I threw away everything."
"You what? Mom, I spent weeks on it. The competition is just 4 days away."
"I told you to clean up your mess. I couldn't tell the art from the trash."
I was horrified and did the only thing that made sense. I turned around and ran out of my home. That night it was freezing outside and I didn't know where to go. I started crying, sitting on the street. Suddenly a car approached me. It was Ron. He said, since I hadn't shown up at his place when I was supposed to, he thought I might be in trouble. When I told him I'd left my house, he said I could stay at his place as long as I wanted. The next 3 days were crazy. I skipped school and worked on my sculpture all day long. I blocked Mom's number because she wouldn't stop calling to yell at me. But the day before the art contest, someone knocked at Ron's door. It was Dad. He wanted me to go home to Mom. "Are you coming?"
"No, honey. I have to catch a flight in 30 minutes. Now, hurry up."
"Forget it, Dad. I'm tired of how you and Mom have been. You're literally never there in my life. And Mom just hates me so much. I'm not going back to her."
"She doesn't hate you. She loves you."
"Yeah, of course. Now go, Dad. I don't need you either. I have other friends who can be there for me when I need it." With that, I slammed the door in his face. On the day of the art contest, I was very anxious. I tried to look around and find some familiar faces, but none were there for me. I looked at other people's art pieces, and I suddenly felt they were all better than mine. I wanted to go away. I took my small little statue and ran out of the exhibition crying. But at the door, I found Dad. He took one look at me and smiled. "You came? How?"
"No one else gets to be my daughter's best friend and biggest support. Now tell me, you weren't running away, were you?"
"My work is really bad, Dad. It's not good."
"Why don't you let the judges decide?"
He led me back inside, and long story short, 2 hours later, I walked out with the first prize, 100% scholarship to my dream university. Just as I was about to leave the gallery, I saw something that surprised me. Mom was walking away from the far end of the crowd. I couldn't believe she'd come to see me tank, and now that I'd done well, she was just walking away? Well, she could do whatever. I was going to start college anyway. I started art school and started dating Ron, who asked me to be his girlfriend the day we graduated high school. After I finished college, Ron and I decided to buy a small gallery for me. I found a gorgeous little place, and the very first day, We found a lovely little sculpture tucked away in its storage. The real shocker, though, was that it looked very familiar. The gallery owner said,
"Oh, it's just been collecting dust for 20 years. The artist was not very successful. Then she stopped working when she had a kid. This was her last piece. She called it Baby Caroline."
I was stunned for a second when I realized why it was so familiar. The baby was wearing a necklace exactly like mine. My mom made this. I told the owner I was keeping it and wrapped it up. On Christmas that year, I took the sculpture and decided to see Mom. As soon as she saw it, she burst into tears and said,
"I'm so sorry. I'm a horrible mother, aren't I?"
She said she'd gotten jealous when she saw me sculpt.
"I gave up my career for you, and you were so good. I got so upset. I'm so sorry."
As angry and hurt as I was, I knew that Mom had given up a lot for me, so I hugged her and showed her my second gift, the old sculpting tools I'd found in the attic years ago. She cried as she held them. They were hers. Well, now the two of us often sculpt together in my studio, except we have a third edition, my little girl Maria.